unfortunately, they're being owed money, and that which is no surprise with everything that Ghana is going through. However, I think their Minister of, Works, if you take a look at a quote from him, he was on television just yesterday or the day before, saying that they will be paid. Mr. Kwasi Amoako Atta, Minister of Roads and Highways, saying that the constructors on this country are doing a job despite all the difficulties, and they want to assure them that governments will continue to work in their interest. And he says that before the end of this year, partial payments will be made. So that's what's happening across the continent.
So a couple of things. In economics, there's something called the short run and the long run.
Are you referring to fuel now,
yeah,
or the
fuel,
eco?
Fuel.
Okay, fuel.
Fuel
okay,
first.
Yeah, okay.
In the short run, what you said will happen. If you deregulate fully, subsidies removed, you're buying, what is it called, Forex at 730, 740. In the short run, people will bring in. But also don't forget, it's going to be a buyer's market. It will now be a market where there are a lot of competitors trying to get attraction. So when the pricing war starts, it's who can survive. So if I can get mine in, because I want to maximize cost and sell out my cost, I'll be able to say, okay, let me benchmark it at a certain rate. It could be a 1 or 2 naira difference.
Okay.
All right? And if that continues, in the long run, then you start to see price reduction. But in the short run, what you're saying will happen.
Yeah.
But in the long run, it should fizzle out. And it's also expected that in the long run, the naira should be more competitive, because once you start to now plow the money you are using for subsidies into social activities and everything, and will probably get leadership right, it will create a lot of buffers in the middle of the line. So in the short run, yes, but in the long run, there should be a level of balance in our price aggregation. All right, I don't want to make direct comparisons with the telecom sector because infrastructural layouts are different.
Yeah.
But when you look at it, something like that played out. Initially, to buy a SIM card was over 15,000, 20,000 naira. Or even 40,000 naira at a point. You know why? Because you were paying for the infrastructure and everything and all of that. But once the differential and the balancing came in, then people could do a lot more. So in the short run, it's going to happen, but in the long run, things should get better. Secondly, as regards the eco, it's going to be problematic because it's already political. France wanted to spite Nigeria. President Macron went to Abidjan about a year ago or so, and he said, we're going to be in support of the eco. What they wanted to do was to be able to manipulate the eco, because when you aggregate it, most countries of the West African sub-region are French-speaking. They parlent le français.
Right.
So when they have that, they wanted the backbone of the eco to still be up there in France because of the colonial outlook. But Nigeria read the signs and kicked against it. So massively, yes, it will bring about trade, but there's also a colonial warfare that says we'll be greatly disadvantaged. And the question is, who's going to take up the independence of the bank? But I think a neat little idea that has been done is the scheme for currency exchange that has been done with the AFCTA.
Okay.
I think there's sort of like an exchange for currency that, knock on wood, you can make direct exchange of different currencies and payments. I think that portal being built up is a great way to start first, rather than going through all the rigmarole. And you remember that when the euro currency started, they set up something called an ERM, a rate mechanism where they had to benchmark and pair currencies at a certain rate against one another. You remember when England pulled out of that in the early 90s, that caused Black Wednesday, and that caused recession and economic ripples and all of that. So you don't want to go through all of that. It's still a conversation on the table, but we need to fight the colonial warfare of France, and I hope France doesn't win.
Well, just real quick, for the Francophone nations, the franc is being backed by the euro. So that's another thing. They're getting that support from there. So there's that whole dynamic as well. Yeah.
All right, yes, let me just very quickly touch on Ghana and the Minister of Highways, Roads and Highways, talking about paying contractors. I'm struggling to see how that's going to be possible.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, Ghana is facing one of its lowest economy, the highest inflation rate in decades, close to 40%.
50 actually.
50% now.
50.
The president has admitted that they're struggling to pay, to make payments to pay their debts. So whilst this looks really nice, and unfortunately this is what politicians do, make grand promises, given a deadline. The end of the year is just how many days?
A week.
It's less than a week. We're going to, by Sunday, we've finished the year, and they're saying they'll pay. It would be great to see how they're hoping to pay that, despite the economic crisis in Ghana.
Well, first with the echo. the plan to have a common monetary union among the 15 West African states has been on the table since 1964. And they have shifted the dates of the launch more than 4 or 5 times. The latest information is that, look, it was delayed because of COVID, because the launch date, the last launch date was 2020. And now the launch date again has been moved to 2027. It's not just about having a common currency to facilitate trade. Part of the problem is political, strictly. And the inequities, the differences among the various countries within Africa. And also the crisis of instability. When you want to launch the ECO or you want to strengthen the monetary union, there will be an issue in Mali. Or there will be a coup in Guinea-Bissau. So this is the reality that we'll find in West Africa. And the fact, of course, that these countries, their central banks are not of the same strength.
Right.
So don't be too enthusiastic that the ECO will be launched very soon and there will be a monetary union. Because I've had people raising the question, why is Nigeria redesigning the certain denominations when the ECO will come next year? Right. There is no certainty that ECO will show up next year. Just as, there are disagreements over having even a common customs union.
Right.
So because of the differences that we have. So we talk about disunity inside Nigeria. There is disunity too within this sub-region. That's one. You started by talking about the police.
Yes.
And making, a case for better pay for policemen. Well, I hope we're not making the mistake of indicating that policemen are trigger happy and they indulge in extrajudicial killing because their pay is poor and they are not happy.
Gotcha.
This was one of the major issues during the October 2020 SARS. The NSAS protesters, or demonstrators, if you like, one of their demands was that, look, better welfare for policemen. Pushing the Buhari administration in around October 2021 to promise to increase pay by 20%, give tax waivers for junior police officers, and give them welfare package. The only problem, of course, is that, yes, council approved money. I think about 12 point something billion that was approved for this, or was it 1.2 billion or whatever. But as at March 2022, you recall that policemen were threatening to go on strike.
Right. Because
the promise that had been made to them
was not kept.
Was not kept. Yeah. As of June, some papers were still saying the money had not been paid. And the Inspector General of Police was reassuring the policemen. Not being a policeman, I don't know whether the package has been paid. So this has been an old argument, welfare. However, it's no justification
for what happened,
for reckless conduct. And what we're dealing with in this case of the murder of Mrs. Rahim is sheer criminality. And the law does not allow anybody to use the uniform of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, whether you're a policeman or you're a civil defense officer, to go about assaulting and killing and brutalizing the same people that you're supposed to serve and protect. I think we must have clarity on that. As for Ghana, yes, the Minister of Roads and Railways says contractors will be paid their money. If you go back to the 2023 budget presentation by the president, he said, look, going forward, Ghana will have priorities. And the Ghanaian economy is overburdened by debt, both local debt and foreign debt. And which was why recently the Minister of Finance said, look, certain categories of debts, maybe of a bilateral category and short-term loans, they will suspend payment in that regard and focus on some other ones. So this position by the Minister of Roads and Railways fits into that plan. But for 2023, what they have is a budget of strict austerity, according to President Nana Akufo-Addo, while they are still working on that $3 billion that they are expecting the IMF bailout that they are
to provide.
That they are seeking.
Well, thank you very much,
Thank
Rotis.
you.
It's time now for a short break on the morning show. When we return, we'll have Arise News analyst Emmanuel Efeni join us to review top stories in today's newspapers. Stay with us.
As you adjust to the new realities for operating your business and engaging with your customers, let us help you transform your business into a digital powerhouse capable of adapting and taking advantage of today's opportunities. With our best-in-class array of digital solutions, you can conduct your business, receive payments from your customers, and perform transactions quickly, safely, and conveniently, because we've got you covered with the right people, technology, and service offerings. Contact us today and let us take your business to its zenith. Zenith Bank, in your best interest.
I'm about to serve better breakfast.
If you're in Lagos, you need to see this.
I'm not just streaming content, I'm just escaping traffic.
Get more data to enjoy exclusive content. Dial *141# now. Airtel, the smartphone network.
My brother, my sister, do you know that winning an election is not only about getting the majority vote? For that your candidate to be declared winner of the election, he or she must secure 25% of the vote in 2/3 of all states, plus the FCT to be president, and 25% of the vote in 2/3 of all local governments of a state to be governor. This is constitutional, and every presidential candidate has had to pass this threshold. Even governors have had to make this mark to get elected in their states. We live in one country with different languages, religions, and ethnic groups. This is why it is not enough to have only northern votes, or southern votes, or eastern votes, or western votes. The only way to get elected as president or governor is by gaining enough support across the country and states. Let us make sure that we know now so that we don't cause an issue tomorrow. This message is brought to you by the Center for Democracy and Development, CDD, with support from the Foreign, Commonwealth and Development Office, FCDO.
Set to take the African continent and the world by storm. They are giants in every sense of the word, and they will bring entertainment that's just as big. Don't miss the first ever season of Big Brother Titans with two African giants, Naija and Nsamse, under Biggie's roof together. Big Brother Titans starts on Sunday, 15th of January on DSTV 198, GoTV 29, and Africa Magic. Headline sponsor, Bamboo, Flutterwave, and Lotus Star.
Welcome back to the morning show here on Arise News. Joining us now to review some of the headlines of today's newspapers from around the world is Arise News analyst Emmanuel Efeni. Good morning, Emmanuel.
Good morning, Ruben. Good morning, Rufai. Good morning, Ayo.
Good morning.
Yes, we start the review with this day, Nigeria's newspaper of record. Yes, the lead story, 2023, why runoff is increasingly likely. I will come back to this story. We will discuss it extensively, looking at the breakdown there. But let's just look at what other newspapers are reporting on their front pages. The Guardian newspaper, 2023 is frustrations as Nigerians queue for PVCs. INEC upbeat on exercise. Voters demand improved modalities. Residents disagree over allegations of sharp practices. Yes, Nigerians who are yet to collect their PVCs are doing so, but some are having a logistics problem. INEC announced a couple of days ago that at the local government headquarters, you can collect your PVCs, but soon they'll be taking these PVCs to the various wards for Nigerians who have their PVC still in the INEC custody to collect theirs. Now, the Nation newspaper disquiet in PDP over Wike's Makinde's others trip to UK. G5 governors on retreat to decide on preferred presidential candidate. Yes, we've been hearing different angles to what the G5 governors want to do. They've gone to London. Again, it's cold in London. Of course, there's Harmattan in Nigeria. I don't know why the choice of London. But according to the Nation newspaper, there is disquiet in the PDP over that meeting. Of course, the Nation's interpretation that when the G5 governors sneeze, there's cold in the PDP. But clearly, everybody in the PDP should be worried about these governors. Will they work with Atiku eventually? I think that's where they're all looking at. But the Nigerian Tribune is reporting PDP Guzo wades in as G5 meets in London. Yes, General Guzo, one of those Abati usually referred to as owners of Nigeria. But it's wading into this matter. But we can tell you for certain that the next election will be decided by Nigerians whether the owners of Nigeria, the so-called owners of Nigeria, like it or not, the next president will be decided by Nigerians with the improved electoral process. Now, the New Telegraph newspaper, 2023 APC campaign running on empty tank of promises. Kuka says political parties not qualified to be called parties. Clary's utterances on godly APC. Jonathan's men begin mobilization for Tinubu. Lagos ex-governor has been friendly to Igbo. Others in Lagos, Bajabia Miller is saying. Yes, of course, the statement by Reverend Kuka, Bishop Kuka being quoted there. I think he made a statement here on Arise TV yesterday morning. Of course, if you made promises in 2015 as a party, reinforce those promises ahead of the 2019 election, and you have not kept those promises, it will, of course, be remembered when that same party is asking for Nigerian vote, whether President Buhari is running or not. Of course, the candidate of the APC is Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu. Daily Sun newspaper, outrage, fury over Lagos lawyer's murder by police. Killer won't go unpunished. Sanwo-Olu, NBA CSOs demand justice. IGP apologizes. Others probe. One death too many from policemen. A policeman, clearly, Ruben, I agree with you. These policemen, we should take them to the Yaba Psychiatric Center. Oh, there's one in Abeokuta, Ruben. You take them there. Arrow. Yeah, they should be checked. How do you just open fire on a car? What do you want to achieve? To stop the car with your bullets? Okay. Well, we just hope this time around, and quickly too, this policeman or men involved in this act will be quickly tried and let them face the music. Because this is not something that should drag for too long. The woman is dead, unborn child, gone, family in grief. Nigerians are angry. The government should do the needful. Now, the Punch newspaper, CBN monitors 6,047 BVN over suspected fraudulent transaction. Central Bank examines 28 bank customers' operations, 17.89 million bank accounts not linked with BVN, 144 properties forfeited by fraudsters, looters for auction. Yes. Now, the Vanguard newspaper, scarcity. NNPC sells petrol for 148 naira. Private depots sell for 215 naira. Ipman begins lifting from NNPC January 2023. Transporters hike fares, commuters stranded. NMDPRA not monitoring compliance. Stakeholders harp on PIA implementation. NNPC, before the Yuletide period, they were shouting, including the group managing director, the CEO of NNPCL. Oh, we have enough fuel. We have enough petrol. As usual.
1 billion. 1 billion liters in our
so
reserve.
Much that, this scarcity is artificial. It's a Papa Road gridlock. In a few weeks, everything will die down. Here we are. I'm looking for fuel in Arufai. I came to the office with my last, it's like the last tank going into reserve, but somehow we have to keep on moving, Ruben. Now,
the show must go on.
Yeah, the show must go on. But NNPC, this is a national disgrace. We spend so much money to subsidize, yet we cannot see the fuel to buy. So whatever is causing this problem.
I thought the DSS gave 48-hour ultimatum.
I don't. The temporary
yes.
After that,
well,
and then
let's leave that. You know, I was asking the other day, what is the business of DSS in distribution of fuel?
I thought they said they will review some of us.
Let's just go on with the newspaper review. Daily Trust, unpaid tax. Bandits kill 4. Abduct over 100 farmers in Niger. 4 village heads in captivity. 1 killed. We are making efforts to rescue them. Police. Crops spoiling in our farms. Military blames informants for attack. Kidnappers killed 3 siblings. Motorcyclists after collecting 60 million naira in Taraba. Now, insecurity. When we talk about insecurity, still widespread in the country, we are reminded that in 2015, X number of local governments in Borno, in Yobe, in Adamawa were under terrorist control. But now, everywhere, farmers cannot, because bandits are in control and they want them to pay tax before they can harvest their crops. It happened in Katsina the other time when 34 workers were abducted after the owner of that farm paid them part of what they asked for, saying that when I sell my crops, I will pay the balance. They abducted those people. Now this is happening in Niger State, and the country is certainly
that's why
not
we're having
secure.
Food inflation. You can
of course,
see. That's why
we're having food inflation, because many farmers, they planted, they cannot harvest, and even when they can harvest, they have to pay taxes to bandits who control this space. Now let's come back. Okay, yes, the foreign newspapers quickly. The Times of London: middle-class couples face £40,000 hit to incomes. Hunt accused of shameful raid on working families. Of course, middle-class families will be hit with up to £40,000, and they will worse off over the next decade as a result of the Jeremy Hunt's steel taxes, which has put in place the Chancellor to reduce government borrowing. Of course, somebody has to pay somewhere, and the middle-class families are the ones who will be taking that hit over the next decade. But again, I'm sure the people will continue to raise their voice. The Wall Street Journal reporting China to open borders as COVID cases rise. Of course, Beijing planning to reopen its borders in the new year. Of course, to drop the quarantine rule for incoming visitors. At a time, the coronavirus infection is spreading in China. Is China coming to terms with realities? Too late. At a time, the COVID is still rising. Ruben will now look at the reports, the front page of this day. 2023, why runoff is likely. Of course, we'll go through the states one by one. But just before that, we look at how this report has been put together by This Day Election Center. Of course, this latest development, what we have there is a result of recent Disney poll, The Explainer, released by Disney 2023 Election Center, where a breakdown of the new realities is advanced with implications for each candidate. Yes, some of the factors responsible for what this explainer came up with is, of course, the candidates in each of their presence in each of the states, their structures and support-based capacity to mobilize, the contents of their respective manifestos, of course, ethnic sentiments playing a role in Nigerian politics, and 2023 general election will not be different. The popularity of the candidates and their name recognition. Of course, there are some candidates you mentioned in some localities. The voters will not have heard of such names. Of course, there are some, either over time, their presence in politics, their participation in presidential elections, and they are well known. Of course, you cannot rule out the financial war chest of each candidate. It will play a role, and of course, in the days ahead as they mobilize, 8 weeks is the time, money will play a role. No wonder the politicians were fighting against the restriction on the limits to withdrawal. And of course, CBN had to change its stance. Now, we look at the states. Let's go state by state. North Central, Plateau State there. The performance expected, Tinubu likely to pull 20%, Atiku 35%, Obi 35%, Kwankwanso 5%, and of course, others. Talking about other candidates and undecided voters, 5%. Benue, 20% for Tinubu, 25% for Atiku, 30% for Peter Obi. Yes, Peter Obi seemed to have colonized, if I just use that advisedly, the Benue, because it's repeated visit to there. It seemed to have touched the heart of the people to the extent that the governor himself, tacitly is rooting for Obi. And he said that if I was not a member of the PDP, I should be campaigning for you. Whether he will still do that behind the scene, left to be seen. Now, the Kogi in Niger, Nasarawa State, 30%, Tinubu will pull 30% of the vote, 25% Atiku, 25% Obi, 10% Kwankwanso, of course, 10% undecided, and others will be struggling for that. Niger State, Tinubu 35%, Atiku 35%, Obi 10%, and Kwankwanso 10%, others undecided 10%, Kogi 35% Tinubu, 35% Atiku, and of course Obi 15%. While Kwankwanso will pull 5% of the Kogi vote, 10% will be pulled by others, and of course, undecided voters fall under that 10% there. Now, looking at the northeast, let's look at northeast first. Now, Tinubu in Borno will pull 40%, Atiku 35%, Obi, well unrepresented there, Kwankwanso 20%, and others 5%. Yobe, 40%, Tinubu 30%, Atiku, Kwankwanso 15%, Obi unrepresented there, 15% undecided, others. Taraba, 10% for Tinubu, 40% for Atiku, Obi 20%, Kwankwanso 20%, 10% undecided. Gombe State, 20% for Tinubu, not, of course, Atiku, 40% from Gombe, 15% for Obi, 5% Kwankwanso, 20%, of course, undecided, 10% undecided. Others, Bauchi, 20% for Tinubu, Atiku, 40%, Obi, 5%, Kwankwanso, 15%, 20% undecided. Others in, of course, Bauchi. Now, the Northwest. After the Northwest, I'll come to you before we look at the South the south, south, southeast, and southwest. Now, the northwest, which is the real battleground, because 22 million votes up for grabs in the northwest, the largest single zone in the country. Now, for Kano, Tinubu will poll 30%, Atiku 20%, Obi 5%, Kwankwanso 40% of the Kano votes, 5% undecided, others. Kaduna, Tinubu 30%, Atiku 25%, Obi 20%, Kwankwanso 20%. Yes, undecided 5%. Kaduna will be a real battleground as the candidates just for votes there. Katsina, the home state of President Muhammadu Buhari, who will be described on election day as the outgoing president. Yes, Tinubu, 30% Katsina votes. Atiku, 35% of Katsina votes. Obi not represented there. Kwankwanso, 30%, of course, 5% undecided. Jigawa, 25%. Tinubu, 35%. Atiku, Obi not represented there. Kwankwanso, 25% of Jigawa votes. 15% undecided, and of course others. Don't be surprised that Obi can still pick some votes from that 15% undecided. Others. Sokoto, 35% Tinubu. Atiku, 40% of Sokoto votes. Kwankwanso, 15%. Obi not represented there. Of course, 10% undecided. Others. Kebbi State, 35%. Tinubu, 35%. Atiku, and of course, Kwankwanso, 20%, 10% undecided. Zamfara, now, 35%. Tinubu, 35%. Atiku, and of course, Kwankwanso, 20%. Obi not represented, 10%. Others, and of course, undecided. Talking about the North votes. North Central, Northeast, and the Northwest. Ruben Rufai, I want to get your comment on that before we look at it.
Finish.
You want to
cover the entire country.
Okay, the entire country. Okay, now let's look at the Southwest. Let's start with the Southwest. Yes, Tinubu in Lagos will poll 45% of the votes. Atiku, 20%. Peter Obi, 20%. Kwankwanso, 5%. Undecided others, 10%. Ogun, Tinubu, 45%. Atiku, 20%. Obi, 5%. Kwankwanso, 15% of Ogun votes. And of course, 15% of Ogun votes undecided. Others, candidates likely to pick from that 15%. Ondo, yes, Tinubu 45%, Atiku 20%, Obi 10%, and of course Kwankwanso 10%, 15% of Ondo votes undecided and will be picked by other candidates. Ekiti, Tinubu 45%, Atiku 20%, Obi 15%, and of course 20% of Ekiti votes still in the realm of undecided votes, and other candidates will pick from that 15%. Osun, yes, Tinubu 35%, Atiku 35%, Obi 5%, Kwankwanso 5%, 20% of Osun votes in the realm of undecided. Of course, other candidates will pick from that 20%. Also in that column. Now, the South Delta State, Tinubu 15%, Atiku 40%, Obi 35%, Kwankwanso unrepresented, others undecided 10%, that's Delta. Now, Edo votes, 15% of that vote will go to Tinubu, and 35% Atiku, 35% Obi, Kwankwanso unrepresented in Edo, 15% undecided, going as well as votes to be picked by other candidates. Akwa Ibom, Tinubu 15%, Atiku 40%, Obi 30%, Kwankwanso unrepresented, and of course, 10%, yes, 15% undecided. While in Bayelsa, yes, 20% of the votes will go to Tinubu, 40% of the votes will go to Atiku, 30% to Peter Obi, of course, 10% of Bayelsa votes undecided, and other candidates picking from that 10%. Cross River State, 25% of the votes will go to Tinubu, 40% to Atiku, and of course, Cross River, take it Cross River and I take that again. 25% of the votes to Tinubu, 20% to Atiku, 35% of Cross River votes going to Peter Obi, of course, Kwankwanso unrepresented there, 20% still up for grabs, as well as what other candidates would pick. Now, Rivers State, yes, Tinubu 10%, Atiku 15%, Obi 35%. Of course, Kwankwanso unrepresented there. And 40% of Rivers votes still up for grabs, because a certain Nyesom Wike is yet to decide where he will throw his weight on the day of the presidential election. The meetings in London, in Benue, in Rivers, or elsewhere, at the end of all that meeting, a decision has to be taken by Nyesom Wike and his group. They call themselves the Integrity Group, aka G5 governors. Now, we look at the southeast. Enugu State, Tinubu will pick 10% of the vote, Atiku 15%, Peter Obi 60%, 15% others and undecided. Now, Ebonyi State, Tinubu will pick 15%, Atiku 15%, while Peter Obi will pick 60% of the vote. 5%, of course, undecided, and for other candidates. While in Abia State, 10% of the voters will be rooting for Tinubu. Atiku will pool at least 15% of the votes, while Peter Obi will gather 60% of the votes. 15% of the votes I take that again, Ebonyi. 15% Tinubu, 15% Atiku, 60% will be 10% undecided. Now, Imo, 15% Tinubu, 20% Atiku, 60% Peter Obi, Kwankwanso unrepresented, while 5% will go to, of course, other candidates, as well as those who are yet to decide as of today. Abia, 10% for Tinubu, 15% for Atiku, 60% for Peter Obi, and of course, 15% undecided, and other candidates will also pick from that 15%. Anambra, yes, 5% for Tinubu, 10% for Atiku, 70% will be rooting for Peter Obi, a son of the soil. While Kwankwanso, not represented there, 15% undecided, as well others will pick from that. These are the pictures as of today. 8 weeks is a long time in politics. The politicians, the presidential candidates, they are on the march, they're on the campaign trail. Something may still happen to change these permutations as garnered by the This Day Election Center, Ruben, Rufai, and Ayo.
Okay, let me speak to the environment of the exercise. First, these percentages that you are sharing, this percentage, just expect that is going to generate a lot of controversy.
Expectedly.
Already, as you were reeling out the percentages, my phone was
beeping,
was on fire,
yes,
with people challenging and all of that.
Yes.
But let's make the first point. That one, it's part of the responsibility of the media to lead debate, to set agenda, to generate ideas for public consideration based on its own findings and the efforts that it has made. So nobody should come around and say, oh, this is partisan. Oh, they are biased. They are teaching in this direction. Oftentimes, some of those things just be a parlor talk. The second thing, of course, is that because there are figures here, this percentage here, this percentage there, statisticians, mathematicians, they're likely to raise questions and say, well, why was no explanation given as to exactly how those figures were arrived at and what is the margin of error? If you look at some of those states, the report says certain percentages of persons are still undecided.
Yeah.
Could it be that those voters that are undecided at this moment could, on election day, make up their minds, or before election day, make up their minds and change the calculus that has been presented? But one strong point that you made in the report is about the rule of thumb. How it's possible that this is based on experience, because you were talking about ethnic sentiments, you were talking about financial wash chairs, you are talking about structure,
political structure.
Yeah, you were talking about capacity, support base, and all that. All those are rule of thumb issues.
But they are factors.
Yes, well, there are factors, of course, religion and all of that, but you cannot really measure them with statistics. So these are some of the questions that may be raised. However, the bigger question that has been raised is that there's likely to be a runoff in the 2023 election. INEC itself already drew attention to that when INEC said that they are prepared in the event of a runoff. 90 million ballot papers were supposed to be printed, but I think they said they printed, is it 186 or, thousand, or is it million, 186 million ballot papers, so that in the event of a runoff, INEC will be able to activate reverse logistics and then make sure, that the country does not hang in the balance. However, even the idea of a runoff is governed by law. Section 134 of the Constitution, the 1999 Constitution. Section 134 explains how a woman can become president of Nigeria and how there will be need for a runoff in Section 134, subsection 3. For you to be president of Nigeria, you must have the largest number of votes cast. The other condition is that you must have not less than 1/4 of the votes cast in 2/3 of the states, 36 states,
in this case,
and
24
the
states.
FCT, which will be 24. If you look at the analysis that has been done here, the analysis says Abubakar Atiku will win in 21 states. He will get 25% there. Bola Tinubu will win in 20 states. That is, he will get 25% there. Peter Obi and Kwankwanso were told will have insignificant showing in majority of the states. And what Section 134 says is that the other candidate that goes for the runoff is not a person necessarily with the second largest number of votes. You must have majority votes in majority of states, and then you are qualified to be on the ballot for the runoff. And INEC says that they are prepared. But will it be Atiku Abubakar and Bola Tinubu? Is it possible that before now and the election, there could be some disruption and those undecided voters could go one way or the other? But as a basis for discussion, this is interesting. And for Nigerians to know that, yes, a runoff is possible, is provided for in the Constitution. So it's not as if the This Day Election Center is making this up. It's provided for under the law. So for us to know that, look, we can have the presidential election in February next year. If there is no clear winner, then of course it can go to a runoff. I think the Constitution says INEC has about 7 days. And maybe it's because of that they are already prepared for the reverse logistics. So as for your analysis, just be prepared for a lot of controversy.
In fact, I will advise those who are coming to get a copy of this day. Keep it.
Yes.
And after February 25, we'll discuss further. But, of course, this can change 8 weeks is a long time in politics, and so many things can happen thereafter. Rufai.
Definitely, it has to be said. I'm happy to be able to point out the parameters that this is just based on trends. Trend analysis, is different from bare knuckle empiricals. So it's just based on trends, feeling the pulse of the people, reading the trends and reading what society is saying. But for me already in this, there are some interesting trends that are already coming out. The fact that for the very first time, there are trends positing the fact that the Middle Belt states might not go to the hitherto known two top parties is one trend that increasingly we are seeing that is happening. And when you look at Plateau, Benue, Nasarawa, and all of that, you're beginning to see that trend. Could this be sustained before the elections? Only time will tell. And please, we are not saying this is what will happen in the elections. We are feeling and positing trends. Today. And trend aggregation might be different based on the assessment of the readers of the trend. Also, another trend I'm seeing is that a lot of battleground holds are still going to remain intact based on the fact that, except in the Northeast, where there are variations in the tickets, in the sense that a party has a running mate from the Northeast and also another presidential candidate from the Northeast. That's why you can see Tinubu trending forward in Borno and Yobe, which we all know will be because of the inroads of Shatima. But the question is, can he aggregate that properly to deliver those numbers? Only time will tell. And also the fact that you see that it's split across, and you're seeing people like Alhaji Atiku Abubakar still doing well in Adamawa, still in the Northeast. But when you look at the trend, it could go here, not there. Also, another trend that I know definitely will change is the number of the undecided voters. I think to a large extent, as we go forward to those 8 weeks, a lot of Nigerians will decide. We will not have a number of undecided voters. But also, one account we are not looking at will be voter apathy. Because of violence, as enunciated by INEC, violence in the Southeast, violence in the North and other parts of the country. And when you look at the voter apathy number, it will definitely feed into the general number. We have 90 million registered voters, they say. The question is, it will be a miracle if we can eke out 50, 60 million people.
No, but the enthusiasm we see in the registration.
Yes.
Comparatively, we are likely to have more voters than previous elections.
Enthusiasm is not election day representation. That's the mistake people have.
It will be carried over
in the last elections. In the last elections, we had close to 80 million registered voters.
Okay.
So there is no time you don't see enthusiasm. It's different from election day, and we will get to see.
Can I just say that? Can I just make one point? And that is that what do we use information like this, projections from the media or polls for candidates and also for voters? I hope, like you mentioned, in terms of the undecided, that this will spur particularly those who haven't voted in previous elections to see that your numbers count. And that is a push to encourage Nigerians to go out and vote. So in terms of if like Dr. Bati has mentioned, there are debates already online now as to how accurate, or this is not what the reality is because of what you see on social media. Again, social media is not the reality of how votes turn out on the actual day if people don't turn out their campaign into actual votes. So I believe this is a useful tool, particularly for new voters or voters who are still undecided, to go out and actually cast their votes.
Well, thank you very much, Emmanuel Efene. We'll see you again tomorrow morning. We'll take a short break now, and when we return, we'll be talking to Professor Bongo Adi, an economist and senior lecturer in economics and data analytics at the Lagos Business School, and Dr. Beatrice Pogo, president of the Middle Belt Forum. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
Emergencies happen when you least expect them to. It gets worse when you are cash-strapped. No need to despair. First Advance has you covered. You can get that urgent cash right now on First Advance. With First Advance, salary earners can get up to 50% of their salary. No hassles. As long as you earn a monthly salary and your salary account has been active for at least 2 months. It doesn't matter if you run a salary account with First Bank or any other bank. Just dial *894*11# or simply dial *894# on your mobile phone. What's more, when you open a First Bank salary account, you can enjoy 0 charges and free debit card issuance. Download the First mobile app on Play Store or App Store today. Log in to experience First Bank digital banking. Select loans, select First Advance, and follow the prompts to receive your loan. Don't let that urgent need get the best of you. Get First Advance now. It's as simple as dialing *894*11#. First Advance. Fast, convenient, secure. You first. First Bank.
Patricia, crypto made easy.
Lagos has amassed more wealth than any other state in the country to be the most comfortable city to live in.
Now Lagos is earning 51 billion naira every month.
But even with all that money, this is the Lagos you have now. Bad roads filled with potholes, poor drainage system resulting in floods during rainy season, incessant traffic congestions, increased environmental pollution, poor healthcare system, large-scale child begging, poor security and increased crime rate, impunity of state government officials, lack of clean drinking water, poor transportation system. After years of empty promises, Lagos is now rated as the second worst city to live in the world. How long shall we continue like this? Lagos is not working. We want our Lagos back. Vote Dr. Abdulaziz Olajide Adediran Jandor as governor of Lagos State. Jafueko, fight for Lagos.
PDP, power to the people.
Chivita season, oh, oh, feel this Christmas, oh, oh. Let's celebrate with Chivita.
Everyone has a Chivita this season. What's your Chivita?
This na Emeka. He like to dey keep money for her. As CBN deadline don dey near so. This one na wise Emeka. As he don hear say deadline dey near, he wan carry money go deposit for the right place with Access Bank.
It's time to spread your wings and fly. Reach for the sky.
Even if the bank too far, na to go to the nearest Access Closer agent. No carry last with your money.
Get up right now, right now.
Money wey you deposit for Access Bank, na money wey go make your mind rest well well. Don't let the money spoil for your hand o. 10 million naira today, fit be 0 naira tomorrow. Oya o, Musa, Shade, Onyinye, carry your money go Access Bank or Access Closer agent wey near you. Access, more than banking.
Welcome back to the morning show here on Arise News. President Muhammadu Buhari has reviewed his 7.5 years in office and concluded that his best appears not to be appreciated by some Nigerians. The president, who spoke in a documentary tagged Celebrating a Patriot, a leader, an elder statesman, to mark his 80th birthday anniversary, said he would not miss Aso Rock because he was being harassed. He also described the claim that it was not the real Buhari, but a certain Jibril Aminu from Sudan as a joke that was not funny. According to him, some Nigerians have a way of creating humor to feast on something they do not understand. He said the rumor was the work of some mischief makers to demonstrate their cheekiness. Joining us on this show this morning to discuss President Buhari's assessment of his time in office so far is Professor Bongo Adi, an economist and senior lecturer in economics and data analytics at the Lagos Business School, and Dr. Beatrice Pogu, president of Middle Belt Forum. Welcome to the morning show, Professor Adi and Dr. Pogu. Thank you very much for joining us.
Welcome.
Well, the question is for both of you. And I would like to start with Professor Adi. If you can hear me.
Morning show.
Are you, Professor Adi, are you with us? Hello? Okay, maybe, if he's not hearing.
Thank you very much.
Oh, okay, you are with us. Quickly. President Muhammadu Buhari says after 7.5 years, he doesn't feel that his best efforts have been appreciated well enough by Nigerians, and that some people are just cheeky and mischievous. And he's a president who is being harassed by many Nigerians, and because of that, he's going to stay away once he leaves from Aso Rock, which of course is what he should do. But what do you think of this his assessment? Do you think that Nigerians have been unfair to him, or history will be kind to him? Professor Adi, let me start with you.
Called me, so I'm not hearing anything.
Oh, you didn't hear me? Okay, Dr. Pogu, let's start with you. Dr. Pogu?
The president, having made his statement, he is the president of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. When he came to office in 2015, he stayed for 6 good months to have a good time and a period where he could select the best lieutenants that would help him run the government smoothly. He made promises to Nigerians. Now we can judge him by fulfillment of those promises, if at all he performed well. He made lots of promises with regards to economy, and rather than improving the economy is worse off. Under his regime, it has never been this bad. When he came in, $1, I remember, was trading for about 198 Naira. Today, $1 is 700 and something Naira. In fact, it went up to 900 Naira before the central bank intervened in a way and manner which is not normal in economic circles. With regards to the security, when he came in, he made promises. He will end this, he will do that. Rather, insecurity escalated from what it was in the Northeast to nearly every part of the country, and we are still living with it. Kidnapping and banditry became the thing of the day. People had to sell their property to rescue loved ones, and even at times, these loved ones are killed. For the first time in Nigeria, like the Wild West, a train was stopped, and people from the train were taken out and kept in places within this country. We all believe that our military and security agencies know where the bandits are, but we believe because of lack of political will, these people continue to operate freely. Maybe lately, for the intervention of the National Assembly and the threat of impeachment, the president had to have this, dish out this political will to give the military real marching order. And we are hearing things happening. And I think in some areas, things are now improving, especially in the northwest. The president came in with a mindset, and maybe he came in with that mindset of a military man, but he came into a political circle, and many things are determined by the political heavyweights up there in the north. And because of that, nepotism became the rule of the day. It's possible the president wanted to do things right, but these people who brought him to power had and still have overbearing influence on him, and there was lots of, and there is still lots of nepotism, to the extent that critical areas and leaders in the security architecture are headed by one section of the country, and that had been a problem to everybody. So when you measure the president based on these indices, you would say that the president has not performed well. And even the infrastructure, many of the credits being taken by the government are just cosmetic things done to what Goodluck Jonathan had done before he left office. So Mr. President needs to look back and be objective and say, gentlemen, I came in with the intention of doing X, Y, Z, but I have failed, and I'm leaving the country worse off. But forgive me, I didn't come to do this. Unfortunately, the vagaries of government has brought all this on us. We pray that Nigeria will get out of it. I think that would have been a better statement which will appease Nigerians and would look at the president as somebody who really wanted to do the right thing but couldn't because of political pressure that has weighed him down and weighed his policies down. But by assessment, his government has not done well.
All right, thank you, Dr. Pogo. And just with regards to your statement around the people around the president, despite his good intentions. Yesterday, during the broadcast of the president's 80th birthday celebration, the vice president had said that one of his strengths and sometimes a weapon is that once he gives you something to do, he just trusts that you will do it, whether or not he won't go back to looking at it. So perhaps that was used as a tool a lot, or again, leadership, the buck stops with him. But let me come to you, Professor Adi. Since the president is saying that he has not been dealt with fairly and he won't miss Aso Rock because he's come under very stiff criticism, let's evaluate some of the successes of the president. Some of which are, some of his campaign promises, the second Niger bridge, even though not 100% completed, 95%, the Lagos-Ibadan Expressway, some key legislative assents that he's made, the PIA, the Petroleum Industry Act, the Electoral Reform Bill, we have the Money Laundering Prevention and Prohibition Bill amended 2022, and amidst others. I would like you, in your evaluation, before we move on to the bad and the ugly, to talk about the good. Is there any legacy of the current president? I'll start with you, Professor Adi.
Yeah, thank you very much, and thanks for having me on the program. I think his greatest legacy would be with the Electoral Reform Act, which he managed to sign into law. So again, I think the test of the pudding is in the eating. So we are yet to subject that to the test, and that will come starting from February next year. I wouldn't use the few governorship elections we've had in Ekiti and Oshu as a test case. So we'll be looking at the national election that will be happening in February. And at the end of that, the success of that will tell us whether that is actually a legacy that he will be looking back to with satisfaction, years down the line. And now the second Niger bridge that's been delivered is also, of course, a great one. And then the rail network, a few of them have come into operation. But we also know that when it comes to the infrastructure, the technology, it's one thing to deliver, but it's another thing to really give Nigerians what they can really be confident with, or something that they will be proud about. We have the rail. One of them caught fire just the other day. One of the what do you call them? Caught fire the other day on the track. And then we've had so many questions asked regarding the obsolescence of some of the technology, used in delivering the rail. So when you look at that, well, it's something that we now have rails, but again, some section of Nigeria, I listened to Dr. Pogu speaking earlier, some segment of the country still feel that they've been marginalized. They were not covered in that infrastructure delivery. So yes, few successes here and there, but I think if you look at Nigerians today, if you take a poll, the average Nigerian will tell you that they become worse off during these 8 years than they've ever been. Since you want me to focus on the successes, so the electoral reform, the PIB is another one. But again, they are still in the early stages. I wish that he managed to do this earlier on during his administration, such that we would have enough evidence to really do a proper evaluation. But these are just laws that have just been signed, and we are still waiting for their full implementation and full rollout before we can see what they can actually achieve within the system. As it is, those are very crucial, reforms that will unlock resources for instance, the oil and gas sector. There are a lot of things is done with gas as well. I know that when it reaches full, once it begins to unroll, then we will see the benefit. But like I said, they are still in the early stages. These are reforms that should have been carried out, laws that he should have signed earlier on during his administration, so that by now we would have started seeing the benefits. So is it a case of too little, too late? Maybe something like that.
Okay. So two questions, Professor Adi. I'll come to Mr. Beatrice Pogu first, and you can also answer. For Mr. Beatrice Pogu, I'd like to talk about insecurity. There were killings in Kaduna recently, 38 people. The killings have been going on and on and on like that. Farmers now have to pay taxes in Niger. I mean, what's your take on all of that vis-a-vis the legacies of President Buhari? And Professor Adi, your question will be, speak to me, yes, you talked about infrastructure, but speak to me about the state of debt with those infrastructure. And take, for instance, do you know that the new terminal of the Lagos airport built can't be used by airlines now because of structural flaws and defects? So a lot of people are saying that 100 million loan that we took from China to build our new terminal is already a waste as we speak today, because that airport can't be used, airlines can't use it because of the structural defect. It was launched in March, till date no plane has landed there. I'll come to you, Mr. Beatrice Pogu. You can spend about a minute or two, then Professor Adi will come back to you. Dr. Pogu, you first. Yes, sir.
Thanks. Yeah, thanks so much. The infrastructural development, which is being uploaded, and especially by the people in the presidency, not people outside, including even Bishop Kuka in his message. He said, yes, the man has made some achievements in infrastructure. But when you look at these developments vis-a-vis the pilferage, the stealing of our crude, that is the main source of the economic thrust of this country, that people are stealing more than we are exporting, and that we are living and surviving and also doing all this infrastructural, having this infrastructural gains as a result of borrowing, to the extent that this country is so indebted now that only God will tell when we'll be able to get out of debt. You can see that everything done it has been brought to nullity based on the fact that it is based and financed by borrowed money, while our crude is being stolen on daily basis, and no crude can be stolen without the connivance of our Navy that actually monitors ships that come in and go out. So we can say the stealing is by government. It's unfortunate. So all this, when you look at it, whatever the infrastructural development, forget about even the flaws in the infrastructural development, the issue is we are being indebted unnecessarily by this government, and as a result, we have an economy that is not moving forward. We are only retrogressing. It's an unfortunate development. It has overshadowed everything, and whatever they have done, when you compare it with what losses that they have supervised, because for government to be lackadaisical about what is happening to the extent that it took just recently Tom Polo revealing how much pilferage is going on, and that we are not even meeting our OPEC quota the first time. It's only during this regime. It's unfortunate.
Thank you so much.
So may God help us. May they come to the reality that, yes, things have gone wrong. Things are still going wrong. We will try and tidy things up before we hand over to the next government. That's my prayer.
Professor Adi, as we wrap up.
Well, thank you very much. I earlier spoke about the level, the obsolescence of some of the infrastructure that we have. They are not up to date. And then, so you're talking about the wrong way. And then Dr. Pogu talking about debt. First of all, we use the wrong approach. We are coming from an administration that had prioritized public-private partnerships or the involvement of private expertise in the delivery of infrastructure. But when this current administration came on, they seem to reverse all of that, as we saw a kind of an approach that looked towards populism. I wrote an article at some point that Nigeria operated like a quasi-communist system. So where the decisions were highly centralized, and then they preferred to fund directly, using budgets, all infrastructure, projects. And then what did we get as a result? This ballooning debt. And of course, poor quality. If we had engaged the private sector, if we had used other methods to procure those infrastructure, definitely we could have gotten better value for money. But as it were, when you have a system that was highly characterized by nepotism, you can't rule out mediocrity and incompetence out of it. So that is actually what we have been saddled with. I mean, generally speaking, during Buhari's administration, I would say that he has supervised, Wole Soyinka wrote a book called The Season of Anomy. Anomy is a sociological theory of the 1930s, Robert Merton. He said that that anomic situation develops when people who have aspiration, people have goals they want to attain, but for some change in circumstances, they're no longer able to attain it. That results in social anomy. Then they react in either of 5 ways. Either they can conform, and then you have very few people who can conform because they are direct beneficiaries of that system. In our case, we have less than 1% of Nigerians who are close relatives of the president who have benefited immensely from his administration. Those are the conformists. Then next you have the innovators, people who can, okay, let's see how we can make something out of a bad situation. And there are very few. And then you have the next group who are the ritualists. So people resort to ritualism. Ritualism is not that they begin to cut people's heads or something. No, so they operate life as a ritual. They just go about their business. Well, what can they do? Then you have people who will reject the system. And then that's where the bulk of the nation is today. They have rejected the system. They have rejected everything. So they complain, but then they have no way to express their grievances. And then you have the last group who rebel against the rebellion. So you have a social rebellion, and that's what we are seeing today. The youth of this country are actually voting with their feet, as you see that they are migrating out of the country in large numbers. Our best, the able-bodied, young, well-trained, talented Nigerians are leaving to other countries. Why has that happened? Because of this season of anomie that the president, this administration has actually brought on the nation. It's a very sad situation. We never thought that we could get, it will get this bad. But unfortunately, that's what the last 7 years, or almost 8 years now, have brought us.
Well, on that note, we'd like to thank you very much, Professor Adi, and also Dr. Beatrice Pogo, for joining us on the morning show today. Thank you very much for your insights. We take a short break now. When we return, Ojinika Upe will be here with details on what's trending. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
New Naira notes? Don't panic. Here's what you need to know. Ensure to make deposits of all old banknotes before January 31, 2023. To make the process seamless for you, all Fidelity Bank branches will be open till 6 p.m. on weekdays and 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. on Saturdays to allow for cash deposits only. Also, please note that bank charges on all cash deposits have been suspended by the CBN. However, charges shall still be applied on cash withdrawals. The new banknotes can be accessed at any Fidelity Bank branch nationwide from December 15, 2022. Old banknotes will remain in circulation till January 31, 2023, when they will cease to be legal tender, as directed by the CBN. For more inquiries, follow us on our social media channels, or email us at true.serve@fidelitybank.ng. You can also call 0700 3035 489 or reach us on WhatsApp on 090 3000 5252. Thank you for banking with us.
We are Fidelity. We keep our word.
Introducing an all-time mega offer. Get over 50% discount in the Airtel Home Broadband mega offer. Buy a router for just 10,000 Naira and get up to 240 gigabyte or a MiFi for 5,000 Naira and get up to 125 gigabyte bonus data. More data, more you. Reliable home broadband box.
Airtel, the smartphone network.
Getting together for the first time in years was a little bit awkward. Grandpa still tried to entertain us. Mom was always stealing the spotlight from the kids. It wasn't until Grandma cracked a joke
That's my favorite prayer.
that we got back into our groove. In this festive, DSTV is making family time even better with an upgrade.
Stay connected to DSTV and we'll upgrade you to the next package for free.
Welcome back to the morning show here on Arise News. Joining us now is Ojinika Ojiope with stories trending around the world. Hello, Jinx.
Never get tired, do you? How are you? Good morning. This beautiful morning. How are you?
Yeah, I'm good. I'm
Great.
fine.
Good morning,
Ayomi.
Ayomi. How are you this
Very
morning?
well, thank you.
Great.
Good morning.
Good morning, Rufai.
Morning, Aji.
Showa.
Fantastic.
Well, all right. We're going to start what's trending on a sad note. Well, let's begin what's trending. On Monday, social media was awash with reactions following the killing of a Lagos-based female lawyer, Bolanle Rahim, in the Ajah area of the state on Christmas Day by a trigger-happy Assistant Superintendent of Police, the policeman ASP Ayuba, attached to the Ajah police station, and his team were said to have tried to stop Bolanle and her family members as they drove back home from a Christmas Day church service. It is reported that Bolanle was shot dead when the car she was in tried to make a U-turn under the Ajah Bridge. The Lagos State Police Command says it's investigating the incident and have condoled with her family, friends, and the Nigerian Bar Association, assuring that justice will prevail. While reacting to the incident, the Lagos State Governor, Babajide Sanwo-Olu, in a series of tweets, condemned the killing, stating that he received the news with utter shock and sadness. In another tweet, the governor wrote, "The Lagos State Police Command have arrested, disarmed, and detained the officers involved in the incident. Nothing will be spared under the laws of Lagos State until justice is served speedily and adequately." Well, Bolanle, her friend, wrote, "Bolanle Rahim was my real estate agent. She supported me in my goal and was always cheering me on. She was so hardworking, positive, and such a cheerful spirit. She has a husband and child. I can't even say more. The Nigerian police are killers." Well, Atiku Abubakar wrote, "The shooting of Bolanle Rahim by a police officer is heartbreaking and stands condemned. This latest shooting calls to attention the urgent need for police reforms that will sensitize the force and bring it in line with best policing practices." Well, Peter Obi wrote, "Her killing and the loss of many innocent lives across the nation to trigger happy policemen is the reason why I will embark on the immediate and instructive security sector reform and governance. Relatedly, we must improve the functioning and effectiveness of the police by strengthening their civilian oversight, as well as increasing their strength, material, financial allocation, and enhanced professional training. Our national policing strength must be relative to our national population and meet global standards." This is the call. It is such an outrageous incident that occurred on Christmas Day of all days. I was listening earlier to a voice note, though unconfirmed, from her husband saying how he witnessed the shooting of his dear wife. This gun, the bullet went through her chest, opened her chest, and she was pregnant. She fell on the floor. It took them a few minutes before they could rush her into the hospital. This policeman, if we can pull up her picture, I believe her family members took and pull up his picture. I believe, their family members took him in the car and drove him to the hospital. Bolanle died in the hospital. This is so horrific. This incident needs to be thoroughly investigated, like the governor of Lagos State has assured us. But I don't think it goes it's not just about the investigation. This needs to stop. The hashtag #EndSARS has started all over again. I am so heartbroken, Rufai.
Oji, we're all heartbroken, commiserations to the family, but we don't learn anything in this country. I bet you, Oji, I've been hearing about the atrocious activities of that Ajiwe police station in Ajah. It's been a while now. What was done? Nothing. Oji, it will happen again. We'll come here, we'll talk again. In fact, even the police, they make jest of us. The media will just talk. Even I talk, they go talk. I don't kill the person, finish. Culture, we eat strategy for breakfast. We are not ready. The day we are ready as a country, Nigeria will change. Now, everybody is going on social media. Putin. Oh, presidential candidate too, Putin. The same people. When Deborah died, we know what happened. No? We have not forgotten. No? We have not forgotten. Now, everybody is using Bolanle to trend. May they not use us trend. That's the prayer I pray for everybody. May they not use us trend after our death because of the faulty system. And where do we link it to? Do we train our police officers as well? Look, go and check online for a video, Oji. Maybe you can use it on what's trending. It was shot in 2013. The state of our police college in Ikeja, a documentary was done by a TV station. Shambolic. Are we going to say we don't know that police officers are doing all of this? You remember the young man they killed the other time in Niger? What was done? The last story of Demola Yaya Baton, he was just 15 years they gave the police officer. So they know that they will come out of it. They know that life does not mean anything in the country. They know that nobody is safe in Nigeria, so they can do and undo. And please, I hate it when people make the argument that it's because of money. They are not being, it's a lie.
Absolutely, I agree with you.
It's because the Nigerian police know that they will kill you and nothing will happen.
Absolutely, I agree with you.
And there are people in the fellow police force will shield them. That's why they can go ahead and kill people. See, if you are being paid the best money in the world, if you have a mental pattern of thinking that shows that if you do something, there are no consequences for your action, you will go away with it. The American police that they are paying a lot of money, an average American police officer gets like $55,000 a year. Are they not still killing black people? It's because they know that when they kill black people in America, there are no repercussions. The reason why Nigerian police can get away with it is because they know that when they kill people in Nigeria, there are no repercussions. Did we learn anything from NSAS? No. What happened it's not more killings that happened in NSAS. The same killings people protested against the NSAS. Didn't more people get killed? So why do we deceive ourselves so much? I'm just sad for the unborn child. Only God knows what that child will have become in this country. But Oji, let me not deceive you. It will happen again. And me and you will come here and talk about it again. Except we are ready to change things. But we are not ready now.
Ayo, I cannot even begin to imagine what this family is going through at this point. Imagine on Christmas Day how to spend your Christmas. And can you believe that she was shot dead in front of her child?
You know, when you're describing it, Oji, thank you for breaking it down and presenting it so there's a human form to it. This is, and you know, while it was chilling for me when you were speaking, because this could have been anyone. So it could have been you, it could have been me, it could have been your mother, it could have been your sister, it could have been your daughter, because there wasn't anything unique about Bolanle. The only thing about her was that the policeman saw someone who perhaps for one reason or the other and decided to shoot, and it happened to be Bolanle Rahim that got the bullet. It could have been any other Nigerian. And like Rufai has mentioned, there are a few others that happened. Gafar Buraimo, 2 weeks ago, in the same Ajah area, stray bullets cut him down in his prime, 31 years old. All we hear are statements, we're sorry. In fact, I saw a tweet this morning that perhaps if something had been done about Buraimo or Gafar, we wouldn't have had a Bolanle Rahim situation. So just 2 weeks ago, if there was a decisive action towards that particular killing, we wouldn't be 2 weeks afterwards talking about another innocent woman who's gone. Now, talking about the issues, just resting on that, I want to just, we must continue to talk about these issues, irrespective of whether or not, you know, it's taken an effect until we see. And the reason why is because it can affect any one of us. We've talked about recruitment process right from the very beginning. So we've talked about investigation. It's going to be swift. Let us see stiff punishment and consequences for these misdemeanors by policemen. We talk about training and retraining. We talked about psychological evaluation. We've talked about the fact that they should be tested even for drugs and alcohol use. We've seen, some of us have seen policemen at their duty post drinking. Some of them, their breath, there's heavy alcohol on their breath. Who is checking this? What are the checks and balances for the policemen? Very important. There must be compensation for the family.
Absolutely.
There must be compensation for both the, you know, the husband, the husband and the child and the family. Very important. It is sad, but the best justice, the form of justice for Bolanle Rahim and every soul that has unfortunately been killed by the Nigerian police is that we must see a better police force.
Yes.
We cannot continue like this. That is the best justice for them.
You raised a very valid point, Ayo. Who is checking the Nigerian police? You talked about drunken police officers. Yeah. What could have happened here, Dr. Abati? I mean, what are the laws in terms of police officers with, you know, maybe traffic rules? Are they supposed to stop with the gun? I mean, what is the situation here?
Well, we said this earlier on. Nobody is allowed under the laws of Nigeria to use his uniform to commit crime. Whether you are a police officer or you are a soldier or you are a civil defense officer. That uniform, you are wearing the uniform of Nigeria, and the laws of Nigeria guarantee certain rights to individuals. what are the fundamental rights you are dealing with here? Section 33 talks about the right to life. Section 33 of the 1999 Constitution says you cannot take somebody's life except if there is a court judgment, resulting from the committal of a crime. Section 34 of the same 1999 Constitution talks about the right to the dignity of the human person. So you cannot just violate anybody's right and say you are a policeman. So what has been committed here is crime. We have talked about police brutality, extrajudicial killing. Okay, even all those are not allowed under the law. And I've had somebody once statement talking about the 3 officers that have been investigated will be subjected to orderly room trial. Which orderly room trial has the police ever conducted in this country? And you get to know the outcome. No, those 3 persons should be put before the law courts to undergo criminal proceedings immediately. And the relevant law is Section 315 of the Criminal Code. Section 315 deals with murder or manslaughter. It says you cannot unlawfully take another person's life. And this is precisely what this Mr. Vandy and his accomplices have done in this particular case, summarily executing an innocent woman. In fact, it could have been worse. Any of those children in the vehicle with her could also have been killed. The Mr. Vandy killed the living and killed the unborn.
Yes.
She being a pregnant woman.
Yes.
And he cannot lay claim that because he's wearing a police uniform, that he was doing his duty. What duty is he performing in that regard? So they must be charged accordingly. Under orderly room trial, the only thing they can do is to take their plea, and then they must be handed over immediately to the court of law to go and face the music. That's one. 2, the account given by Mr. Rahim, he said when the incident occurred and he saw his wife bleeding, he took her immediately to the nearest hospital. Yeah. But the hospital said they could not attend to them. And I hope people know that there is a law in Nigeria that says you cannot reject gunshot victims. So part of the investigation should be to identify that hospital that said they could not attend, because was it possible that if she had immediately been attended to, the doctors in that particular hospital would have been able to save her life? He now had to take the wife from that hospital that rejected her and started looking for another hospital. By the time they now got to that second hospital, she was dead. So part of the investigation should identify that hospital and try to find out why that hospital lacked the capacity to attend to a gunshot victim, because there is a specific law in that regard that you cannot reject a gunshot victim. But on the whole, there have been talks about police, there have been talks about police reform and all of that. Well, part of the outcome of the October 2020 NSAS protest is that policemen should be subjected to psychiatric examination. And I repeat the point I made earlier. That Ajiwe police station that is so notorious, maybe what the IG should do is to temporarily shut down that station or take out all the people there and commit them to Yaba Psychiatric Hospital for proper examination.
Absolutely. Because
in 1 month, they've killed 2 people. It will be a great shame to the Inspector General of Police himself if an officer from that same station kills somebody again. This Mr. Vandy, who is the executioner in this particular case, we're told has been in the police force for 33 years. Nigeria is a place where people talk about experience. They say, oh, he's an experienced man. He has been there for 33 years. There are a lot of people who will spend 33 years in one place and there will be a problem to the system. Those 3 policemen, these are rogue policemen, and they should be sanctioned. And I mentioned earlier on the case of one gentleman, Godsent Obafunso, in Urume, in Eastern Northeast local government in Edo State, who was also killed in August by policemen. Nobody has done anything about it. And the brother has had to cry out to say, instead of helping him to sanction the policeman, they are collecting money from him. They have collected 230,000 from him. A man who loses his brother, then you will be telling him to give IPO, investigating police officer, 200,000. To check the autopsy report, you will ask for 30,000 naira. What kind of police forces are?
There's that urgent need for police reform. I'm glad that everyone is talking about it, including the presidential candidates. I believe, like I read Atiku Abubakar, who has always talked about police reform, Peter Obi, Bola Ahmed Tinubu, they all, shared their condolences. And our heart goes out to her family. May her soul rest in peace. We'll take another story. Discussing the much-talked-about documentary of President Muhammadu Buhari, tagged Celebrating a Patriot, a Leader, an Elder Statesman, which was screened on Friday, December 23rd, at a private dinner organized by the president's family and close associates to commemorate his 80th birthday. Some parts of the documentary have elicited several reactions by a cross-section of Nigerians, particularly as the president revealed that he is doing his best for Nigerians, but that his best appears not to be good enough for some, as well as his reaction to the claim that he was not the real Buhari, but a certain Jubril Aminu from Sudan. The president also talked about his close encounter with death. Let's take a look at snippets of the documentary before we come back for a discussion.
Now you had a strong opposition party, but you almost got killed before the election.
I think Kwankwaso was very generous. He gave me an armored vehicle, a Land Rover. He said I should be using it because he believes that the competition I am going on, I think there are people who really wouldn't like to compete with me. They would like to eliminate me. I said, okay. So I had to go to Kano, and I was using that Jeep. And a vehicle near the secretariat, federal secretariat in Kaduna, wanted to overtake us. My escort stopped them. But before we go on that overhead bridge, which was parallel to our filling station on the right as you are leaving Kaduna for Zaria, they just blew the thing. And when I looked, I saw the pieces of human beings. People who were blasted by the bomb. The chap who we were traveling with in the car on my left was thrown on my left because the bag, the crash bag, which is the vehicle help some of them. The one on my side was blown. The one on his side, I think, was not blown, so he was thrown on my left. And when I looked, I saw blood on my trousers and on my gown. But none of us, the two people in the vehicle and two of us behind, four of us, none of us were injured. But somehow I saw blood because of the number of people killed outside and was because of the bomb. And I came out. I was concerned with the dead people, but some people stopped a vehicle, pushed me inside, and drove me home.
There's a crazy one that was going around at one time that you are not Buhari. Did you hear about that one?
Yes, people said I'm somebody from Sudan. They even mentioned the name. I didn't bother. Nigerians, what they don't understand, think they create their own mysterious way of explaining themselves.
Does it help that you have your sense of humor to find those things funny?
No, it's not funny because those who are advocating or who are making those statements, they just want to be cheeky. They want to distract attention from the main issue. Our main issue is do the infrastructure, make people aware that they need to work hard to live well. They just can't, enjoy life without earning the respect of their communities and so on.
After you leave the presidency,
yes.
What are you going to miss the most about the presidency?
I wonder if I'm going to miss much. I think I'm being harassed. I believe myself that I'm trying my best, but still my best is not good enough because there are people around that think that they can intimidate authorities to get what they want instead of going through.
Well, I mean, I can't wait to see the full documentary. This is a snippet, but it gives the president a different form now. I mean, just hearing his encounter with death, I thought that was quite chilling. And talking about Kwankwanso's, saving his life with that bulletproof car. And I just, I admire the fact that he was able to talk about the people that were around him that were dead. I mean, that was his major concern, like he said. Well, in the documentary, he also talked about the fact that, he lost 2 children to sickle cell and, how he made sure that his new wife was AS, so that, or it was AA, because he's AS, I believe, so that he'll have, children without that genotype. But, I can't wait to see this documentary. A lot of people spoke so glowingly about the president. We don't have much time on this topic, Dr. Abati, if we can quickly share our comments.
Okay, number one, the president referred to being called Jibril of Sudan.
Yes.
This was after, he spent over 100 days on a medical trip to the United Kingdom. And people just bought into that narrative. And it says people are just cheeky. They just, say things. And in any case, when Arise News went to interview him, I did a follow-up piece in this day. And I said, well, the man that I saw, I didn't think that this is the same man that they are claiming is half dead or is a body double. Till this week, some characters on social media are still attacking me. Ruben Abati, show us the version of
Buhari
that you met. I hope now that the president himself has clarified
Absolutely.
that he's the real Buhari and that he is going strong and he will continue to go strong. I hope those harassing me will stop. Talking about harassment, every Nigerian president talks about being harassed.
Absolutely.
That's instructive. President Jonathan said he was the most abused, most vilified president ever. Now, Nigerians are giving President Buhari so much headache. He's even saying, no, he will go far away from Aso Rock. There's nothing there again because the harassment is too much.
Yeah.
Okay, well, that shows, of course, that our leaders, they take note of reactions from the people. Third, the point about marrying a woman who is AA and all that, that's a lesson in marriage. Even pastors tell us that when you want to get married, Rufai, please pay attention. That you
Rufai, are you listening?
You must always check, the genotype of the woman. Because, all of this is important beyond love, beyond romance. I know you are very romantic, but please pay close attention to that part of the president's statement. On top of all that, happy birthday to the president.
Happy birthday. I mean, it was nice to see all of these people commiserate with him. Thank you all. Unfortunately, Rufai, we don't have much time to chat on Buhari's documentary. That's all I have for you on What's Trending today. I'll see you all tomorrow.
Well, thank you, Janika. The year 2022 has witnessed the rise in the poverty index in Nigeria, as over 130 million people are multidimensionally poor. As we gradually come to the end of the year, we bring you this special report on poverty in Nigeria. And that's how we wrap up the morning show today. Rotus Odiri will be here next after that year ender to take you through global business reports. Stay with us. It's still the Arise News channel.
The Food and Agriculture Organization, an institution leading international effort to defeat hunger and improve nutrition and food security, recently published a statistics showing that 19.4 million Nigerians across 21 states and the Federal Capital Territory are food insecure. Giving credence to this finding is the 2022 Global Hunger Index, which ranks Nigeria as number 103 out of 121 countries. This is the second consecutive year that Nigeria will be rated poor by this global index. In 2020, Nigeria ranked 98 among 107 countries, and in 2021, it was 103 out of 116 countries. The index, which has 5 levels of hunger in categorizing countries of the world, rated Nigeria with a score of 27.3%. This means that hunger in the West African country requires urgent and sustainable solutions. Although the federal government blames a number of factors for the worsening food crisis in the country, widespread insecurity and cases of flooding in certain states created more problems for the government in the quest to address the challenge in 2022. For instance, it was reported that 569,000 hectares of farmland were destroyed by flooding shortly before October 2022, while more than 1.4 million people, including farmers, were displaced from their homes. While celebrating the World Food Day program initiated by the United Nations Food and Agriculture Organization in October, the Lagos State House of Assembly called on President Muhammadu Buhari to put more effort in checking insecurity and farmers' herders' crises, which they believe are the leading factors fueling food insecurity. Experts advised that the Nigerian government could establish greater food security by focusing on rural development, appropriate policies for food, political stability, and the reduction of poverty. How much effort has the government made in 2022 to ensure food security across Nigeria? The year in review opened with the launching of the Central Bank of Nigeria and Rice Farmers Association of Nigeria Paddy Pyramids in Abuja by President Muhammadu Buhari. Speaking at the event, the president said the commissioning of the rice pyramids is an indication that the country was making steady and assured progress towards self-sufficiency in food production.
I am aware that the bags of payday will be moving straight from here to rice milling plants across Nigeria, which will lead to the release of processed rice to the markets by the rice millers. The measure will aid our efforts at reducing the price of rice in Nigeria.
While pleading with Nigerians to exercise more patience with his government to achieve food security, Buhari declared that more than 4.8 million smallholder farmers had been supported by the Anchor Borrowers Program, with an increase in production of 23 agricultural commodities, including maize, rice, oil palm, cocoa, cotton, cassava, tomato, and livestock across the Federation.
Out of almost close to about 600 to 700 billion that has been disbursed towards our agricultural programs, particularly the Anchor Borrowers Program, over half of this sum, more than 300 billion, has been disbursed either through Anchor Borrowers Program or through states or to companies that are operating in the southern part of the country.
In April, President Muhammadu Buhari played host to the president of the African Development Bank, Dr. Akinwumi Adesina, where they discussed the problem and solutions to food security in the country. Particularly, the president expressed delight over the $1.5 billion African Emergency Food Plan developed by the AFDB, planned to forestall food crises in Africa, especially as caused by the ongoing Russia-Ukraine diplomatic face-off. Buhari admitted that food insecurity was a big problem in the country. He added that the government shut international land borders for about 2 years in order to curb smuggling, and claimed that some progress was made with that particular decision. In the same month of April, the president told leaders of the Fertilizer Producers and Suppliers Association of Nigeria that the country's rising prominence as Africa's fertilizer powerhouse is due to the implementation of the right policies by his government, which was also aimed at food security in the country. By the month of June, President Buhari announced plans of his government to convene a National Food Security Council, which the federal government constituted in 2018. According to the Minister of Finance, Budget and National Planning, Zainab Ahmed, the Food Security Council, chaired by President Muhammadu Buhari and co-chaired by the Kebbi State Governor Atiku Bagudu, would meet very quickly to address the issue of food inflation and also provide a plan and some methods by which the government can reduce the cost of food to support improved food prices for the citizenry. Despite all these interventions and more by the government, the most recent report of the National Bureau of Statistics, a government agency, indicates that inflation rate rose from 20.77% in September 2022 to 21.09% in October 2022 amid soaring food prices. The NBS says food inflation rose from 23.34% in September 2022 to 23.72% in October 2022. A World Bank report titled A Better Future for All Nigerians, Nigeria Poverty Assessment 2022, released in the month of March, identified sluggish growth, low human capital, labor market weaknesses, and exposure to shocks as factors holding Nigeria's poverty reduction. According to the report, which brings together the latest evidence on the profile and drivers of poverty in Nigeria, as many as 4 in 10 Nigerians live below the national poverty line. On Friday, November the 17th, the federal government, through the National Bureau of Statistics, launched the result of the 2022 Multidimensional Poverty Index, otherwise known as MPI survey, which is a collaborative effort between the National Bureau of Statistics, the National Social Safety Net Coordinating Office, the United Nations Development Programme, the United Nations Children's Fund, and the Oxford Poverty and Human Development Initiative. The survey, which sampled over 56,000 households across the 36 states of the Federation and the FCT, was conducted between November 2021 and February 2022 and provides multi-dimensional poverty estimates at senatorial district level. According to the report, 63% of persons living within Nigeria are multidimensionally poor, while 65% of the poor, which accounts for 86 million people, live in the north. 35%, which is nearly 47 million people, live in the south. The survey also found out that the highest deprivations are the indicator of child engagement, where over half of poor children lack the intellectual stimulation that is pivotal to early childhood development. It added that child poverty is prevalent in the rural areas, with almost 90% of rural children experiencing poverty. In attempts to fight poverty, the government established several agencies, including the National Social Safety Net Project, with the objective of providing access to targeted transfers to the poor and vulnerable households under an expanded National Social Safety Net system.
We raised about 3.6 million, out of which 1 million have been paid the COVID-19 cash transfer. It was also a year that we had earmarked to further socialize the registry and its utilization across government, state governments, and donor agencies. The total estimated poor in Nigeria, it's about 82 million as at 2020 March, when MBS released the report. As of today, it is estimated to be about 92 million. 16 million of those individuals have already been captured. The second landmark achievement for them was the design of a shock-responsive framework for targeting the urban poor. As of today, that rapid response register of the urban poor has about 3.6 million validated individuals with 40 sets of indicators attributed to each of them. Their dwelling places, their assets, where they stay. We with their Joe coordinate it to say allowing government and donor agencies and philanthropic, even individuals to locate those who they target as poor and vulnerable. But this is what government has achieved on its own with only funding support from the World Bank, and has established this database that is now used not only by government, but by private entities, foundations, and the UN body, and also the World Bank across other projects. So it's something that should be celebrated. It's something that is coming out good in Nigeria, something that is putting Nigeria on the global map that we should be all proud of.
One of the biggest national dramas of the year 2022 was the protracted battle between the federal government and university lecturers. On February the 14th, 2022, the body of the Lecturers Academic Staff Union of Universities, popularly known as ASU, embarked on a nationwide strike over a previous agreement which the government had not met. Specifically, ASU wanted the government to fund the revitalization of public universities to the tune of 1.1 trillion naira, payment of earned academic allowances, adoption of the University Transparency Accountability Solution, otherwise known as UTAS, instead of the Integrated Payroll and Personnel Information System, popularly known as IPS, payment of promotion arrears, and the renegotiation of the 2009 ASU-FGN agreement. For 8 unbroken months in 2022, the university system remained shut to activities as the union engaged the government on various fronts with the intervention of eminent Nigerians. One of those interventions is the setting up of a committee led by Emeritus Professor Nimi Briggs. In June 2022, the committee made a headway with ASU and submitted a revised agreement with the union to the government. Many eagerly looked forward to an end to the industrial action, but the government claimed there was no fund to implement the revised agreement. Hopes were dashed once again, and the strike continued. The students, parents, and other stakeholders within the university system embarked on the quest to seek an end to the face-off. One of the actions in this phase was the protest of September the 19th, in which members of the National Association of Nigerian Students, NANS, blocked the international airport in Ikeja, Lagos. Many travelers and local commuters were stranded on that day. The action was repeated in other parts of the country for maximum effect. While the strike lasted, the government approved the registration of parallel organizations to the ASU. They are Congress of Nigerian University Academics, CONWA, and the Nigerian Association of Medical and Dental Academics, NAMDA. Trend watchers believe that it was an attempt to break the perceived monopoly of ASU. Meanwhile, the Minister of Labor and Employment, Dr. Chris Ngige, dragged ASU before the National Industrial Court to compel the lecturers to resume work as soon as possible. On Wednesday, September the 21st, the court ordered the union to call off the strike and resume duty with immediate effect. Not satisfied with that judgment, ASU approached the appeal court, but the appellate court validated the judgment and ordered the university teachers to resume academic activities as soon as possible. Although the strike was finally suspended on October the 14th, that was not the end of the face-off. Despite the intervention of the Speaker of the House of Representatives, Honorable Femi Gbajabiamila, which the government earlier reportedly agreed to, the lecturers who had returned to the classrooms were paid only half of their salaries for the month of October in exercise of the government policy of no work, no pay.
have agreed on that as an interim measure. Hopefully, maybe subsequently we'll look for how to solve this problem once and for all. IPs have not solved problems. They have created more problems. If you want to challenge us, you are the speaker. Check the wage bill before IPs were introduced. Check the wage bill now. Check the recruitment procedure as we were produced in universities.
There are about 7-8 issues now. No work, no pay makes it an 8-point issue. The court will look at them seriously and make pronouncement on each of them. It is good for them. It is good for also for the government. So it becomes a court-resolved matter.
Similarly, the polytechnic subsector of the larger education sector also had its fair share of troubles in the year 2022. On May the 16th, 2022, the Academic Staff Union of Polytechnics, popularly known as ASUP, embarked on a 2-week warning strike to protest federal government's non-fulfillment of aspects of a memorandum of action it signed with the union in 2021. The union insisted that the strike is justified because in 2021 it embarked on a similar industrial action in April, but suspended it in June of the same year after signing a memorandum of action with the government. ASUP added that the federal government failed to honor the agreement after 9 months, despite issuing a month ultimatum for the renewed strike on April the 4th, 2022. Some of the demands of ASUP included the commencement of payment of arrears of the new minimum wage in all affected federal polytechnics, isolated cases of underpayment and omissions, approval and release of regulatory instruments for the accreditation of institutions, management and programs, among others. By May the 30th, ASUP National Publicity Secretary Abdullahi Yelwa released a statement directing members to suspend the strike and return to the classrooms because, according to him, the government had fulfilled some of the demands of the union with hopes that the government would take advantage of the window to address the 5 outstanding items.
The status of the items in dispute as at today is captured as follows. 1. Non-release of the approved revitalization fund for the sector. Of course, as we all know, and as has been reported previously, the sum of 15 billion naira was approved by Mr. President in June 2021, and as we speak, 11 months after this approval by Mr. President, this amount has not been released to the sector. 2. Non-release of arrears of the new minimum wage owed our members. The old 10 months arrears for the polytechnics is yet to be released. The composite amount covering all federal tertiary institutions to the approximate figure of 19 billion naira currently exists as an AIE. What I mean by an AIE is an authority to incur expenditure in the Accountant General's office.
Nigeria as a country is governed on a 3-tier system, which include the federal, state and local government, headed by the president, governor, and chairman respectively. Like years before, 2022 was marked by interactions among these layers of public administration. Issues like security, economy, and politics remained at the forefront of interactions among them throughout the year. 2022 as an election year saw quite a number of political engagements among this government across the nation, especially between the state governors and the federal government. The clamor for the southern part of the nation to produce the next president of the country was widespread. The general notion is that since the incumbent emerged from the north in 2015 and 2019, his successor should come from the south. The Southern Governors Forum particularly led this clamor, holding series of meetings and on different occasions insisting that nothing short of a president of Southern extraction will be the best for the country in the name of equity and political balance in 2023 and beyond.
It's not issue of threats It's not the issue of consequences. Our position on this matter is based on fairness and equity. And we believe that the only thing that is equitable in the circumstance in which we have found ourselves in this country, the North having produced a president for 8 years, is for the South to produce the next president. And we have asked a very important question. How strong? You say a prayer group. We are not a prayer group. We are representing our people, and all we have tried to do is to reflect what I would call the wish of the people in the southern part of the country. That look, let us, at least for now, continue to have a rotation of presidency along north and south. And if the time comes, you might change it. But for now, the North haven't held on to, with my president, and the President Muhammadu Buhari, by the grace of Almighty God, spent 8 years. The next president must come down south, who also spent another 8 years, by the grace of God.
The subject of security also occupied the front burner between the FG and the governors. At a meeting in September, the Southern Governors Forum repeated its stand that state police is the only solution to the country's incessant security challenges. Chairman of the forum and Governor of Ondo State, Rotimi Akeredolu, who spoke on behalf of his colleagues after the meeting, said the surest path to peace and progress in Nigeria was to put in place an arrangement for states to run their own individual police organizations. By September, the Northern Governors Forum, which had hitherto remained conservative on matters of security, threw their weight behind the establishment of state police system. At a meeting with the Northern Traditional Rulers Council, the 19 governors of northern states called for the immediate establishment of state police in order to address the continued insecurity challenges in the country, with kidnapping, massive killing, and wanton destruction of property at the forefront. Akeredolu remained on the call for state police throughout the year. In December, during the meeting of the 36th Attorney General of the Federation held in Lagos, the governor repeated the call with a warning that the inability of the federal government to secure life and property would soon leave citizens with no choice but to arm themselves in self-defense, stressing that the Nigerian police had been overwhelmed. But the Attorney General of the Federation and Minister of Justice, Abubakar Malami, who was also at the event, disagreed with Mr. Akeredolu. He said the state police system will not work because state governors would abuse the system. He added that the state chief executives could not continue to agitate for restructuring on state police when they were responsible for the compromise and mismanagement of the current system. Another subject of contention between the state and federal government in 2022 was a debate on the creation of grazing roads for herders. The Southern Governors Forum had on May the 11th met in Asaba, the Delta State capital, to deliberate on the prevalent insecurity and other issues affecting the region. There, and at other meetings during the year, they agreed that all state governments across the southern region should make laws to ban open grazing in their domains. But the federal government was always quick to remind the governors of its resolution to reintroduce the grazing roads. In January, for instance, President Buhari clearly stated that one sure way of resolving the recurrent clashes between the herders and farmers across Nigeria is to back cattle grazing roads across the nation. However, unlike in the matter of state police, most northern governors have already embarked upon the creation of grazing roads in their respective states. Local government autonomy also created some interactions among the three tiers of government, with Mr. Buhari accusing the governors of fraudulently converting funds meant for the local government under them for something else. While hosting members of the Senior Executive Course 44 of the National Institute for Policy and Strategic Studies in Abuja early December, President Buhari frontally accused governors of collecting money on behalf of local councils in their states, only to remit just half of such allocations to the chairman. Although it did not mention the specific governors, but the governors individually reacted afterwards, each claiming not to be on the list of such governors, including those who will not want any form of autonomy for local government in their states. In March, the National Assembly agreed to amend the Constitution to repeal the state joint local government account and provide for a special account where all allocations due to the local government councils from the federation account and state government shall be paid. 16 out of 20 state assemblies have already voted in favor of LG autonomy, but the amendment requires at least 24 to vote to make it a law. Although others are still expected to vote, but Lagos, Ekiti, and Benue states have already voted against it, while Adamawa State abstained from voting. The year 2022 will go down in the annals of the West African nation as one full of hopes for a better future as fresh rounds of elections loom. Many believe that the outcome of the 2023 general poll will go a long way in determining what happens to the fight against poverty, social and food security, as well as intergovernmental relations. Oba Adeoye, Arise News, Lagos.
Welcome to the Glow Festival of Joy. It's a celebration like no other, with prizes like no other. 20 new houses to be won, 24 brand new cars, 200 sewing machines, 100 generators, 1,000 rechargeable fans. It's raining Gidigba prices this season in the Glow Festival of Joy promo. Dial *611# to enter and grab your share of prizes in this celebration of a lifetime. It can only be Glow. Glow Festival of Joy promo. Dial *611# now.
What will you do this festive season? Just keep streaming, just keep streaming, just keep streaming on Arise Play. Season's greetings from Arise Play.